Hello, we are here today to talk about AFOS. We will go through all the features available in professional and corporate editions and show the main benefits of our platform. Before we go into features, a short introduction. AFOS is web-based and cloud-based, and that means everything runs in your web browser, meaning simplified maintenance, simplified support, no installations, no downloading. It works from any device with a web browser. It works from any location and supports multiple people logging in into the same database with different user rights at the same time. When somebody registers with AFOS, the first thing they probably think about is how to transfer their data. So we have an option to import data. We can go into master data and then we can choose here, import and export. And we have two options, import databases and import CSV. Through import databases, we are able to import initial database, INRA database, NRC database, our official PET database, IAFFD database, and aquaculture species nutrition specification database. Besides that, through import CSV, we can import our nutrients, raw materials availability, formulas compound, ration, and cost lists. This means a user can import their data from their Excel files or their other formulation software. We understand this process sometimes can be tricky even with an intuitive tool like this one. So we are here for you. If you want to transfer your data and you need help, feel free to send us an email and we will be happy to help you with that. We can create a simple scripts or a small application, small programs to transfer your proprietary data into AFOS, including all raw materials, nutrient configurations, formulas, labels, and more, helping you continuing where you stopped with your previous application. There's option to import history, legacy AFOS database, export your formulas from AFOS raw materials, prices, cost lists, or formula cost reports. Once we configured our raw materials, the first step would be to check the data. So let's go into master data and choose nutrients. All our nutrients are here. This is the default AFOS database with 130 nutrients. This report or this screen list for nutrients is something you will see throughout AFOS for different items. So what do we have here? We have main properties like code, abbreviation, name, description, group, unit, and some actions. Actions are edit, clone or create an exact copy, clone to plant or move or clone, duplicate this nutrient to a different plant, quick update constraints. If you want to change, for example, crude protein constraint in multiple formulas, click here and you will find all formulas having this nutrient. So you can quickly verify your constraints and update them. Or quick update raw materials. All raw materials that have non-zero value for this nutrient are listed here. You can verify and update. History or delete. In the history configuration, you can check all changes happened to this nutrient. On top of the screen, we have quick search. While we type, it will filter our search. Or advanced search, filtering by different properties. top of that, we can save our filters for future usage, add a new nutrient, or manage columns, what columns we want to see and what columns should be hidden. After we configured our nutrients, the next step would be to configure our raw materials. We go to raw materials here, and the similar screen, just different properties, slightly different actions. We again have edit, clone to a plant, quick update constraints, history, delete, print as PDF, print as CSV. When we choose edit, open one raw material. Main properties are here, nutrient values are here. Code name, official name, which is a name that will appear on the label, description, price in your defined currency per your defined weight unit. Unit of measure, rounding factor, is it available or not, what's the quantity available, global material, what this means. If you have multiple plants, multiple warehouses with a slightly different name or a code for the same raw material, you can configure a global code here and it will be aligned and streamlined. A question, should this raw material be shown on the label or not? What's the data origin? Is it AFOS default database or you configured it? What group it does belong? Active price list if selected. Do you want to calculate dependencies from dry matter or as fed basis? Or is it a composite raw material? We will go into dependencies in a minute. And what are the composite raw materials? Composite raw materials are like pre-mixes or panels or something that's bought as a mix. So you want to define it and say, if so, then you will be able to configure here in composition your composition of this raw material. Is it, for example, premix or a panel or something that comes in as a blend? There are three tabs here in this main part of the screen. Our first tab is nutrients. So all our nutrient values are here. We have some options: show all, hide zeros, shown by group, recalculate everything, recalculate as feed or lock. What is the difference? If we change some value, for example, we change dry matter, we want, if this is selected, our dry matter values, these as fed values will be changed, updated based on a new dry matter value. If this is selected, our dry matter basis column will be recalculated if we change dry matter values. And if a locked nutrients is selected, we will be able to freely change any value without any additional recalculations. This column shows, are there any dependencies? So we call them dependencies or automatic recalculation, one nutrient based on another. Those are customizable formulas to recalculate nutrients. For example, if we open this dependency, we will see the formula, net energy pig kilo divided by 2.204. So we are able to create custom formulas for automatic recalculation of nutrients. Once we create a dependency, we are able to clone it or promote to all raw materials in the same group or to all raw materials in this plant. We're also able to pull a dependency from another raw material. The second tab here is evaporation. So we're able, if a raw material sits in a silo for a long time, we're able to create or configure evaporation percent and calculate everything with this evaporation. We can even increase the price. for example, 1%. And the third tab is attachments. So we can attach a different spreadsheets, PDF files, pictures, or anything of relevance to this raw material. Once we configure this, we can go to clone or clone to plant, the same as for nutrients, quick update constraints, find all raw materials that have this, find all formulas that have this raw material, or go to history. Once we open history, here on the left side, we will find all variants throughout history for this raw material. So we can check what were the values of nutrients and main properties for this raw material through the time. Also, we're able to track raw material changes. For example, we can go to check the price of this raw material, and this is the price through time. We have a chart. This chart can be exported as an image or CSV file. We can also track, for example, nutrient changes. So we can check what happened with crude protein through time for this raw material. It was 10.5, then 11, and then again 10.5. Once we configure all our raw materials, we can go further into formulas. Before that, a similar story here for advanced search and quick search is available. Let's go to formulas. All our formulas are listed again in a similar fashion. A table, main properties, similar actions. We can create a ration, a compound, a concentrate, premix, or start from a template. Let's create a simple compound formula. We go to compound, and we have multiple tabs. A first tab, details. So we choose some code, add a name, select an animal group, cats, a compound formula type. It can be a ration for dairy cows, concentrate, premix, or pet food. We can choose a carrier if we want to round. Carrier is selected from raw materials added to a formula. So we need first to add raw materials. We have some advanced settings. We can choose a version number, formula type, a formula or a template, a batch size. By default, a batch size is read from a plant configuration, but it also can be configured here for this specific formula. Which constraints type are we going to use, as fed or dry matter? Are we going to use mixed integer calculation? We will select yes, we will show something important here. Compliance profile. If we have some compliance profiles, we will create later a compliance profile and select that. Properties, a different properties of a formula. Then a composition tab. So our formula is here, currently empty. Our database is here. We can add raw materials by double clicking, selecting a few and adding with this arrow, or dragging and dropping into the formula. Similar is for nutrients. We add a few nutrients to formula. Then we can select a min and max constraint for nutrients and raw materials. And we can select something we call post-optimization dependencies. We can create, for example, custom nutrient that will have values that will be calculated after the fact, after the optimization. Palatabilities, digestibilities, production costs, environmental impact, or similar calculations can be done in this way. Raw material ratios can be done here. Nutrient ratios, let's add one nutrient, crude fiber to crude fat, 1 times 2, here's the formula. Group constraints, we can group, for example, rye and millet together. They should be between 5 and 10%, like this. Additional constraints, we can load additional constraints like electricity, disperse, utilities, something else. We will create additional constraints later. and attachments. Again, PDFs, spreadsheets, pictures, or anything else. Once we created the formula, we go to formulator screen to optimize it. So all our formulas are here, and practically this is the main screen of AFOS. Most of the work is done here. We have this tree where in folders or our formulas are. We can, with the right click, have additional options to edit, reload, move, clone, open the matrix, compare to another formula, show history, archive, or remove from the tree. When we open a single formula, for example, broiler pre-starter, 0 to 10 days, our formula is here. Raw materials, nutrients, totals. Action buttons, formulate. We run least cost optimization, and our results are here. For the raw materials, we have code name, price in our defined currency per our defined measurement unit, min and max constraint, max cost constraint if we want one, result in percent and weight, sensitivity, or change in formula cost per unit for 1% change in raw material price. Batch price, shadow cost shown, all raw materials are here included, no shadow costs. Shadow cost is a minimal cost at which a raw material will be included. Boundary cost, boundary distance, showing have we hit a min or max, nutrient distribution can be configured, and raw material, this one isn't available. We have some hints. Oh, look, this raw material is not available. You can still optimize the formula, but keep in mind it's not available in the stock. Share chart. What will happen with raw material share if we change the price? In these cases, there will be no change. In some special cases, we will see some changes. Or contribution chart. What contribution this raw materials gives us? So all nutrients it provides to a formula. So we see in corn gluten is giving these nutrients in these values. Raw material distribution means if we select one and select a raw material distribution, when we select one, we see it here in the distribution column. Okay. Now, similar results are shown for nutrients. We have code name, unit, min and max constraints, results in S, feed, and dry matter bases, boundary distance, have we hit min or max, boundary cost. We can calculate boundary cost with this button. What is the cost of our constraint? Some constraints can be very, very expensive. So if you want to relax a constraint a little bit, you can improve the cost of your formula. Raw material distribution and hints. Here, so when we click a raw material distribution here in this column, we have a distribution. If we select a nutrient distribution will be configured here, populated here. So these are the main results. On top of the screen, we have totals, total cost, previous total cost, unit price per 1 kilo or pound, what is selected, batch price, batch sum, and optimization status. Different optimization status are available for further understanding of the formula. Here we have action items or action buttons for raw materials and nutrients. Here we can manage columns, add raw material to formula, add ratio, add group constraint, choose a temporary cost list. So we can run this formula with a custom cost list, not today's prices, not active prices, but some example prices or old prices or prices from a supplier. Show min and max in amount. Now we have min and max in percent. We can choose that to be in amount, in kilos, and calculate boundary cost. We can quick search for a raw material here or nutrient. Let's create an infeasible formula. We will say a crude protein 50%. When we formulate, we will have this screen saying, okay, this formula is not feasible. We have multiple options here. And there is a dedicated video here. What are these, explaining what are these options and what we can do. We can identify conflicting constraints, show the second best, or just simply do nothing. And we want to recalculate, we can use a total cost minimization or minimize number of violated nutrients. What's the difference? We can focus on minimizing the cost, even if we break multiple nutrients, if we must, or we should not worry about the price, we should worry about reducing number of violated constraints. Please look to the further video for further understanding of this feature. Once we created a simple formula, we are happy with the formula. I will remove this conflicting constraint, re-optimize. What we can do? We can, of course, save, say, okay, we're happy with the formula. But before that, we can calculate, okay, what is calculate button? We have calculate from results or calculate from weight. That means we can manually tweak results or weight columns. For example, instead of 1.1, it will be 1, just 1%. Or instead 7.77 kilos, it should be 8 kilos. And then we can calculate the bottom table or nutrient table, let's say from the weight column. So this is used for manually tweaking your formula. After you manually tweak, you can apply rounding. Let's edit rounding values. We need to calculate, we need to populate the carrier. Edit the formula, say our carrier is corn, yellow dent, then we calculate again, and we have an option to edit rounding values. These are our roundings. I say, okay, round this 1 kilo, 2 kilos, 3 kilos. Modify and round. And values are now rounded in kilos. 1, 2, 3 kilos. The next step in the formula life cycle would be to, after the rounding, one of our constraints is conflicting. Optimize again. Okay, validations. So what is this? You can create your company standards or country standards and validate against those standards. We will go to LIMS, quality analytics. No. We will search formula compliance. Let's create a compliance. New compliance, let's say, our chicken feed standard, animal group, poultry. Let's say something to be called chicken feed. It needs to have dry matter at least, we will deliberately put high results, 99%, and crude protein at least 45%, and fat at least 20%. Deliberately putting some silly results just to show how this is used. And we create a standard. When we go back to formulator, we will click this to remove. Now we are happy with our formula. We want to validate against our chicken standard, and we can validate against as feed or dry matter columns. Default value is the one selected in the formula. Okay, and we see that 3 of our nutrients are below or above standard. That's validation. After we validate it, we can of course save or save as a new raw material or save existing raw material, increment a version, or even save as a formula compliance, save as a new standard. After that, we have actions button. We can extract compound, extract premix, create a variant, open a matrix, check prices chart, analytics, and compare. Let's go one by one. If we create a premix, let's create a very simple premix. We go to formulas, we go to premix, code 999.00.999.111, simple premix. Poultry, formula type premix, premix percent to composition. We will add, we can type here, corn, soybean, calcium carbonate, and some minerals, vitamins, B12. Okay, we want to track dry matter, protein, and vitamin B12. Okay, let's create the premix. Open a formulator, simple premix, it's here. This is our formula. Let's create some constraints. 90% dry matter, crude protein 5, and 100 milligrams per kilo for B12. Formulate, it's not optimal. We cannot have crude protein. 2%, 20, formulate. So this formula cannot have this with these percentages. Soybean meal. Let's troubleshoot. We have configured protein here. We cannot have. Do we have a configured vitamin B12? Let's troubleshoot. We actually don't have the configured properly here. So we will go like this, just to show the point. So when we go to now to save as a new raw material, now we will add a new code for this raw material. The previous code was for the formula. This is a new raw material. Example, group, premixes, and now when we save, now we can go back to this formula, our old formula, and add this raw material. Add the raw material. New premix example, add. Now, we added a new raw material, which is actually a premix modeled in AFOS. And we have this plus here. When we expand, now we can see values inside. When we optimize and formulate, we will see that inside this premix in 2%, and we will see that it's been used for 2% or 40 kilos. We can expand and see the values for exact nutrients, exact raw materials. We can save. And now we have a formula with the premix. This premix will be shown in all reports. The next thing here, which is important, is extract compound. What this means, when we have a full formula, complete formula, which has a micro part and macro part, we can go and extract a compound. Extract a premix. Extract a compound is to extract a formula from a ration. Extract a premix is we have a total formula and we will say this these raw materials with this carrier are my new premix. And we see the calculation of premix here. And new raw material saved with this premix can be configured here. We can even extract this premix from this formula and apply it directly to the current formula with this button. Now we have additional premix. Extract premix, this, and configure. Create variant. What is that? If we have a simple formula or a same formula, practically the same, with just addition of color or medicine or some supplement, we don't need to create a completely new formula. We can create a child formula, a variant. So in this formula, we just add one nutrient, this one, and we can save it as a variant. Now in this tree, we have this plus, and this is a variant formula. When we change a parent formula, the child will be changed too. Very simple if you have a lot of variations of a single selected formula. Formula RMN matrix. A matrix, we need to save this formula. Okay, sorry. To select formula RMN matrix. All our nutrients versus all our raw materials. You can scroll and check to find is there any error. Or you can even go to this contribution chart. Scale to 100% all nutrients versus all raw materials. For example, crude fat we get from palm oil, soy protein, soybean meal, yellow dent, and corn gluten. Batch prices chart. Where does the price comes from? Cost analytics. If you configure your additional cost and additional parameters, you will be able to see your report here. Quick print. If the formula is a ration, you can print it here. PDF, template, Word, Excel, or ASCII file ready for PLC, SCADA, automation, import. PDF. Some of the raw materials created do not have results. We probably have not optimized. We will download the report. Here's our report. Simple report, not customizable, very simple and quick. Let's say we want more advanced report. We go to reporting, report generator. We can create a new report. We got this canvas and these components. Now we add components. For example, formula component. I will choose my formula layer 2. And this is my formula. On the paper, I want it to look like this. Half of the paper, a little more than half of the paper. Totals of the formula, raw materials with all columns, and nutrients with all columns. Let's say we want to customize this. On the side, we have a lot of customizations. For example, I'm sending this to a partner or to a farm, and I don't want them to see my prices. First, I will remove this formula heading removed. Then in raw materials, I want they don't need to know our prices or min and max constraints. That's our proprietary information. That's our IP. So hide zero values. Some results are with zero. I want to hide the column, price column, min and max constraint. Results are empty in this formula. We haven't optimized it, but this is the principle. Similarly for nutrients, we want to hide min and max constraints. We're just keeping resulted as feed and dry matter basis. Then I will add raw material share chart. We will choose a simple premix formula, corn yellow dent, created a simple report. We will move it like this, and we can put it like this here, or even like this. So with this feature, you can combine your different components in customizable report. You can print it from here directly, or you can save it as a template for future use. There are a large number of different components here. If in your business practice you require an additional component, feel free to reach out. We are always open to add the different components here. Label designer. We can open a label designer and create different labels. Add new, create for this formula broiler starter, and then we have this paper. Again, so you can choose a size and add different components, label name, text templates, images, and different components. Let me open. I will now choose a different plant. I will go to pet food demo formula and open a label. For example, that can look like this. You can save or save as, export this to a printer-friendly file types, or print this number of values, of items. This is also interesting feature here. If you create a label and after that update the formula, AFOS will tell you that the label is outdated. You can click this button. You can, of course, print it like this, but you can click this button and fetch updated nutrient and raw material statements. That was the label designer. Pricing, raw material cost list. You can create a cost list. So save the current snapshot like this. And later you can compare these prices or even go to formulate and load them. Choose a temporary cost list. I can, for example, run this formula against a temporary cost list. You can choose a different formulas, cost list analysis. Let's choose a different formulas. And then you can choose a different analysis against them. So if we run analysis, we'll see what's the cost difference, for example, with the current cost list and the old cost list. Today, we just save the cost list that is practically the same, so the difference is zero. But this way, we can analyze impact on a new cost list on our prices. We can even add a desired profit margin, and it will propose a new prices for us to keep the margin. Price list analysis, we will not save this. Again, we could choose a multiple formulas and create different sales categories and run analysis. We could create a sales categories. For example, here, a wholesale, end user, farm, partner, and similar. Analytics, multi-blend, a very important feature. Let's say you have a lot of formulas and you need to optimize them frequently because prices change, nutrients change, so you need to track those changes and optimize your formulas, keeping them up to date. If you optimize one by one, it can take a lot of time. Or you can select a folder, clicking formulate, and everything will be optimized in just one batch in a few clicks. Even more, you can, of course, edit, save, compare these formulas before and after. opening comparison side by side, nutrients or raw materials, single page comparison tool, printer ready, and so on. Okay, show me the differences only. But let's say we have a different scenario. There is a new raw material on the market. Let's say like this. We will open the formulator. I want to show you something like this. Here we can improve the menu, the user experience by clicking this, night mode, or clicking here to show the table side by side, or maximize, or hide any of the columns. We use in our formulas, let me just optimize these few formulas and save them. Formulate, save. We use corn gluten. Okay, let's go to raw materials. Corn, gluten, clone. And let's say instead of prices to be 0.8, it will be 0.75. Everything else is the same. Or even more, a little bit more protein. 60.0, it should be 60.1, let's say. Corn, gluten, supplier 2. Okay, we created a new raw material. Oh, new code like this, variant 1 for this raw material. Multi-blend, these formulas, we want to analyze, should we buy or not some raw material on the market? Change, replace raw materials, corn, gluten with corn, gluten supplier 2, add that action, click OK, formulate, and we get in a few clicks a very interesting report. Should we buy or should we not buy this raw material on the market? So we got the results. All the formulas are optimal, but we see something interesting. Initial price and current price, price difference, initial batch price. So the price of the formula are pretty much the same. We'll check the results. Corn gluten in all formula was used. Now we don't have it anymore. But on the other hand, we have corn gluten. It's not even used, probably. And we get our results. So as you can see, we have initial price, current price, and price difference, telling to us that these three formulas are cheaper for 1 cent with this change. We have initial batch price, a current batch price, and we can compare these formulas here, or just by expanding it here. You can check the new formula. So this answers our question, should we buy or not some raw material on the market? There are additional options here. You can add the raw material to multiple formulas, add nutrients, change, replace nutrients, raw materials, change composition, delete, or use a cost list. What will happen if we apply a different cost list for these selected formulas? Or load an inventory snapshot. Analyze these formulas against some of the inventory snapshots, but we will come to that. Next, production planning. We want to make these two formulas and we want to run analysis, let's say for exact formula amounts, 50 tons of this, 16 tons of that, okay. And here we have information how much of each these raw materials we need to buy to satisfy this plan. You can even load inventory snapshot and run a planning against this. LIMS. Here, it's Laboratory Information Management System. What can we do here? First, we model our suppliers. Let's say supplier A. Okay. Then we model our orders. Let's say like this. We are ordering order number 1001, supplier A. We are ordering oats in 10,000 kilos for $1 per kilo, ordering date today. A laboratory preset. We will need to configure that, but let's configure an order. And then let's say configuring presets. What are we checking in our lab? We want to know about dry matter, moisture, or no, not both things. Dry matter, fiber, fat, crude protein. That's our default mini lab. Okay, let's go back to our orders and say in this order, we will analyze mini lab. And then this order is divided into the incoming deliveries. Delivery number 1, on this order, delivery code 1, date today, quantity 5 tons, batch number 1, and we can add a description, and we are adding sample. We are sampling this delivery. Sample number 1, sample code 1, dry matter 90, fat 5, full protein 20, fiber 5. Another sample in the same delivery, 91, 6, 21, 6. And we can add sample code 2, and we can add multiple samples into the same delivery. Now, we add another delivery. We are now modeling for the same order, delivery code 2, tomorrow, today, the day before, quantity, again, 3,000 tons, 3,000 kilos, batch number 2, add 1 sample. Dry matter, put deliberately something silly, 1 and 1 and 1. Now, when we combine this, we don't have a different delivery for the same date. Okay. Now we are having the same 2 deliveries. Now we have here quality analytics. Now we combine these samples and analyzing them and saying, okay, dry matter average for these 10 tons, dry matter 77, crude fiber 3.21, 3.81, and 13.19. This is our delivery of oats. We can apply it, it will be written to the database. Or even we can calculate the standard deviation, plus 1 standard deviation, or minus 1 standard deviation. And it will help us include statistic variations into our raw materials. That is LIMS. Inventory management. We have a plant inventory and global inventory. What is a plant inventory? All our raw materials can be selected, and we can add, we can go with keyboard like in Excel, up, down, left, and right, and add configure quantity in stock limit, what this means. Below this limit, we will have a red sign indicating we are below the stock. And we can save this snapshot, use it in formulator, in reporting, in analytics. We can compare different snapshots. We can export to CSV, update there by, for example, different person in the company, and import back. That is a plant inventory, an inventory inside a plant. Global inventory, large companies have separate warehouses, inventories where they keep additional raw materials. And here we can configure raw materials and have their stocks configured in this pool of raw materials. Different tools available, for example, data query assistant. For example, we need to find a raw material that have enough calcium, but it's relatively cheap and in stock. Okay, let's search for a raw material. Now build our search and condition. Name starts with calcium. Add condition. Price not greater than lower or equal to $1 or $2, let's say. Add condition. Quantity available or data origin or a formula or let's say price. We selected that. Let's, for example, like this too. We search. These raw materials satisfied our search. We can even find most economical source. Nutrient. Let's give us a protein. Raw material price. What are the most economical sources for the raw materials? Taking into account amount of that nutrient and the price per kilo or pound. Compare. We can compare up to 5 raw materials or formulas side by side. Simple, now, pre-starter. Now, pre-starter again, but the older version. Pre-start or second, third formula, we can have multiple formulas. Compare side by side. Here. Highlighting changes, differences. Compare formulas, compare raw materials, different matrices, unit converter. You can create conversions for different formulas, for different nutrients, different values, and apply them to your database. Event subscriber. If anybody change this formula, I will be in my team, I will be updated. I will know about that. I will get an email and notification inside AFOS, a photo gallery, formula compliance we showed, master data, configured formula templates. You can create a template and then a compound template. And then you can start from that template. For example, in our chicken feed, we always use oats and we always track dry matter needs to be 90 and crude protein 12, and it's always like that. So we can create a template and start from them. Additional costs. Add new utilities. And that can be in percent of the formula, fixed price per formula, or dollar value per formula. Dollar value per formula. Okay. Now we just configure what are our additional costs. Disperse a unit percent. And now when we go back to formulas, select the formula, we can configure these additional costs. So we have disperse is 1% and utilities is $5 per kilo. Of course, not that much. 1 cent, 10 cents per kilo. We can even save these additional costs to templates and just load them like a winter template, summer template, workday template, and so on. Nutrients, nutrient groups, raw material groups, animal groups, nutrient references, currencies, exchange rates. And one important thing before we close this training is administration, and we go to resources protection. For larger companies that want to integrate AFOS into their workflow, ERP, lab, PLC SCADA automation, or something else, QuickBooks, anything else, these are all integration points and points where we can configure user rights. Our default user types are admin, inventory manager, junior formulator, nutritionist, stakeholder, student, super admin, support, and suspended. And per row, we can see everything clickable in AFOS, currency detail, search for animal group, nutrient group update, delete a plant, report generator template, everything clickable. And we can select who can do what. We can even create a new user types besides these here. And we can integrate your system into AFOS in these nodes. For example, formula search or a delete a formula. You can do from your third-party software, search for a formula, read its details, create a formula, read prices. Anything can be integrated in AFOS or from AFOS, and user rights can be configured in very detail. And finally, audit module. Who did what when? For larger companies, with multiple users, this is very helpful. Who did what when? For example, today, object was additional cost created with disperse. I created an item with code disperse, with utilities, new incoming delivery. So everything is saved here up to 1 year, who did what when. You can get help, notifications are here, support requests are here. Notifications are showing every time we publish a new version, we add a notification here. We publish new versions practically once a month, adding new features, fixing issues, or even simply updating and improving performances. So this is a basic AFOS trainings, but a lot of features explained. If you desire a more detailed or a custom tailored training for you, feel free to reach out.